Welcome to the Boat Buyer's Secret Weapon podcast. I'm your host, Captain Matt, and today we're here with Chip. Chip is on his way down to Florida, and he is renovating a house from what I understand. So, Chip, thanks for joining us here, and I'm excited to talk some boats.
You bet. Thank you for having me, Matt.
So tell everybody kind of your situation, where you're heading, and then we'll get into a little bit about your boating background so people have a location as we talk through this.
All right. Sounds good. So we're in Virginia right now. We've bought a canal home in North Naples near Bonita Springs area. So it's golf access down in Florida. We're planning to live there probably 8 months a year and still come back up here once in a while. It's a home that we're going to do a lot of renovation on. That fits into the boat plans because my rule is I can't buy the boat until the renovation is done, or the renovation will never get done.
Yeah, you'll be out of the boat every time you're down there, and
that's right.
No work getting done.
Honey, it's a great sunset tonight.
That's some thinking right there.
Oh, that's right. I'm a thinker. So. So that's our plan, and of course that affects the timetable as it relates to buying the boat. I'm a mechanical engineer by background, and so I like planning, I like designing, I like thinking things out, studying ahead of time. So that's why I've listened to all your podcasts, and of course a lot of others on YouTube. There, trying to get as much information as I can. Yeah. I've done a fair amount of boating over time, but never owned my own. And interestingly enough, the boating that I've done sailboating, I've done canoeing, I rode crew at one point. I've driven a cruiser a little bit, but I've never had a pontoon. And I think I've only been on one that was just kind of a little putzer, and wasn't a very exciting. It felt like a kiddie ride.
Yeah.
And so, but the pontoon, I think, is from my vantage point, a perfect direction for us to go. But it's one of the things I want to talk with you while we are chatting over our beer or drink of choice here.
I got to take my daughter to volleyball practice, so this is just water in here, but
yeah,
it would normally be a Bud Light. So okay,
right.
So let me ask you a few questions to set the stage, because you told me quite a bit about kind of where you see things going. I want to share that with the listeners so that one, we know you're in saltwater.
Right.
You've got a canal home. What is your dock situation? Any limitations there that you know about? Is it a fairly wide canal area? Any concerns there?
So the canal is 60 feet wide. I'm still learning about how these canal things work. I understand they say 50% of the canal for the channel, and 25% as a rule of thumb is how far out we could build. So we have there is a dock there that's 5 feet by 20, and then there's some piling set out farther for a future lift.
Okay, perfect.
I don't think that we'll be using it as it's configured, because I'm working right now on the view, and I think I want to move that and probably put the boat in at an angle and try to have it where we're not staring out at the boat and the the lift and everything. So the lift is important, actually, part of it, because again, we want a nice view, and I don't want to ugly up my own view. And so
one thing I'll recommend, Chip, real quick, is before, as you're doing your research, and I know you're 12 to 18 months out because you've got the renovation, talk to some dock people, have them come out early and look at that, and find out if there's going to be any restrictions on your length of boat that you're going to have, or anything that throws a wrench in your boat plans that you can plan for.
Right. So we have 60 feet of the property is 60 feet wide.
Okay, so you have 60 feet of shoreline to work with.
Right,
good.
Of shoreline. We've got it's a seawall there, concrete, good seawall that was built in 2019. And the neighbor has a big boat, and he's kind of done his thing of using as much of our water as we can. So that will affect things to some degree. The one neighbor on the left, neighbor on the right's completely out of the way. So I don't think that we'll have a restriction as it relates to length. Okay. Although, again, I'm trying to work on the geometry to the shorter the better from the viewpoint of view, yep. Because that allows me to move it over farther out of our main view.
Okay. Gotcha.
But again, ultimately, the view is not going to be what drives the length of my boat. It's going to be these conversations I have with you.
Yeah, it's something to think about, but ultimately get the right boat, and hopefully you can do it all. So they say boating is a series of compromises. There's no such thing as a perfect boat. It's you got to compromise. So let's talk about lifestyle. Okay. You mentioned exploring. You and your wife are adventurous. So talk to me about kind of the way I ask it and talk about it in the First Time Boat Buyer Academy is, what do you see yourself doing 80% of the time? And then let's think about the other 20%, but what does that 80% of the time look like for you?
Right. So the 80% of the time is, my wife is Mary. Mary and I are out, on the boat. I'm envisioning early on, especially, I suppose, using it 3 times a week. One time just for me out there exploring around. One time with Mary, a planned trip we're exploring. And then another time seeing sunsets is a big thing in Naples.
Yes.
I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, but it's just kind of everybody stops and celebrates, a beautiful sunset when it's there. And so I'd envision, once a week, us being out in the boat to do that. So that would be a shorter trip because the Gulf is about 5 minutes away. Well, the bay is 5 minutes away. And then the Gulf is another 5 minutes past that. Okay. And so those are the shorter trips. But when we do exploring, so we were going to buy a condo really years ago down there. And then when we were down there, we go every year. We would just be in our car, and we literally have explored everything from Everglades all the way up to Tampa, the whole Gulf. And we said, well, wait a minute, why are we going to get a condo? We got it. So we got an RV and we just, drive off and do this exploring thing. We love doing it. We love driving, both of us too. So we're a good pair in that way. And one of the nice things about being in the Bonita, North Naples area is 10 miles or a little bit less, we can be up to Fort Myers, 12, maybe 14 up to Port Charlotte, 12 over to Sanibel, 6 miles down to Naples, 10, 12, something like that, down to Marco Island. So there are a lot of places to go, and all these have barrier islands. And so there's bays, and then there's the Gulf side of things.
Yep.
So I'm envisioning that when we go out, we'll be driving an hour or so just to even get to the restaurant or Sanibel Island or whatever it is we want to knock around.
So are you and your wife social? Are you packing the boat with 6-8 people? Or are you like, hey, me and Mary are going to go and we're going to spend an hour cruising and we're going to stop and see a sunset and we're going to just take our time? But
it's going to be mostly us, although, we'll take the opportunity to invite some friends along, but we're not big social, we're both extroverts and very friendly, and, incorporate friends readily. But we don't do a lot of parties and a lot of other stuff. We kind of do our thing and then invite people along. Is the way that would work.
Now, so that's a majority. You're down there for your 8 months. You're gonna do some exploring. You and her, maybe some friends. Now the grandkids come down. What does that look like?
So we've got 12 grandkids altogether with 5 different kids. We're a blended family, and so 5 the kids between us. So we're not shooting for the moon with this thing. It's a long ways from Virginia, where all our kids are. And so we're figuring that 1 or 2 weeks a year, at least one of the families will be down there. And we would want to be with them. At the same time, they may be there on their own at some point. But by and large, I think spring break we'll get one of the families down, and then sometime, in the summer, sort of thing.
Are they typically going to be one at a time because of the blended family, or do you see a time where everybody's down all at once, maybe once in a great while?
I mean, at this snapshot in time, because of the blended family, I think it's going to be more one at a time.
Okay.
It's very possible that she has 2 children, that both of those families would be there, which would be a total of 6 adults and right now 5 kids. Okay. They're all little. The oldest is just going into 1st grade.
Okay.
And then on my side, I've got one son that's got a 9-year-old is the oldest. And then 2 other little ones. Okay. So right now I think the 9-year-old would be the only one that we could pull on a tube, for instance. They would all enjoy being on the boat, but the tubing thing is a future thing. And I want to be able to do that. Like I mentioned to you in my cover note, I'm not a skier. I have skied. And I saw what a pain I put my uncles through for them to teach me how to do it. and I don't want to go through the same thing myself, and especially with a pontoon. It is like, so my son's name is Jay. Jay, if you want Britton to learn how to ski, then you buy a real ski boat. and
that made me laugh when I was reading it in your little note. I'm like, that's a guy I can understand right there. That's something right. My dad would say.
Yeah. And you do it upright, and I'll dock you and all that sort of stuff, but I'm not getting into a ski boat. Candidly, unless Captain Matt, after the end of this conversation, I'm going, oh, forget the pontoon, I should have a ski boat, but I only want to buy and upkeep one boat.
Yes.
And that, again, I like your 80% rule, because that's how I think, that's for us. And I would like it to be powerful enough to pull the kids. And of course, ultimately, if they ski, that's fine, but I am definitely not buying a ski boat or a wake boat, whatever that is. It's the tubing is kind of my level of grandpa thing there, and the kids will enjoy it. And then, the adult sons can kick in from there. If they want something else.
Yeah, exactly. So you mentioned fishing. Is fishing kind of that same thing? Like, I'm not going offshore and really I'm just going to drop some lines in, have some memories with the grandkids. And
right.
Okay.
Right. So I have one son-in-law who loves fishing. But of course, now he has kids. He doesn't have time to go fishing.
Yes.
But when they'll be down there, it's really excellent fishing, is what I understand there. And so we would definitely do it, but definitely not going far offshore. Again, Same thing. You want to go offshore, get yourself an offshore boat. You want a bass boat, get yourself a bass boat. You can hook it up to my dock, Yep. But I would like and I think that's one of the advantages of the pontoon, is that one can fish off it. And again, have it be a good stable platform.
Yeah.
Now his son is like 12 weeks old, so we got some time to get the fishing down.
You could get to that point. So, all right. Well, let me throw a few thoughts out there from everything that you've said right now, Chip.
Beautiful. I appreciate that.
The skiing part. As long as you've got a 150 horsepower, you can do all the water sports that you want. So you're not going to have any limitations. I'm 6'2", 220 to 230, depending on how I'm doing.
I'm the same way.
I can slalom ski on a 22-foot Tri-Toon with the 150.
Okay.
So you're totally fine there. I think you and your wife are on the right path with the TriToon based on some other things that you mentioned about, hey, Mary doesn't want to be beaten to death out of the water. She wants
Right.
to like I envision her as she wants to be riding in a Mercedes or a Cadillac. She doesn't want to be in the Corvette, although you do mention she likes speed, right?
Yeah, that's right. See, she likes to go fast, but she's not going to want to take punishment in order to go fast.
Okay. So I think that definitely you're on the right path with the TriToon.
Okay.
For your horsepower, the more you see loading it up with people and getting that weight on it, so now your buoyancy is not as great. You're plowing through the water more. I think the 150 is as small as you would want to go.
Right.
Depending on what your budget is, as much as you're going to be using it, I would think getting up into the 225, 300 range, you're going to be happier when you need it. Weather's coming up, you do load it up, all the kids and grandkids are there, and you've got 12 people on board, and you want to hit it and get to a restaurant that's an hour away. Hey, I don't want to just be going 20. I want to maybe be going 30. And get some moving on it and still have some in the throttle to, if I need to, I can still get on it a little bit.
Right.
So that's what I'm thinking as far as the style.
And I'm sorry, what you said, I didn't write that down. What was the recommendation?
A 225 to a 300. I think that's going to be really anything over a 300. It's for looks. You're not going to use it a lot. Now, with that said, I used to say that about 225s. I used to say you don't need anything over a 225. Anything else is just for looks. Well, now they got a 600, so you at least got to get up there.
Right.
But I think a 225 plus is going to be satisfactory for you. And then anything more, you just have a little bit left. And every now and again, it's fun just to get out, put the hammer down on a nice calm day.
Right.
And see what you got.
Right.
As far as where you're going to be boating, I'm going to encourage you to look top end. Now, what I didn't ask you, I'm assuming you're buying a home on a canal down in Florida. I assume luxury is sort of the way you lean in automobiles and toys and things like that. Am I correct?
Yeah. So our style is, so I have a Lexus SUV that was built in 2005.
Okay.
So that's my style.
Did you buy it new and you kept it?
No, I bought it. I bought it when it was 8 years old.
Okay.
But I had identified it probably 5 years before that particular model.
Yeah.
It was really, it drove nice. It was big. I'm a big like yourself. So it's easy for me to get in and out. It carries my stuff. And so it worked well. So I'm a former automotive engineer. So I really like things that are designed well.
Yes.
So I mentioned to you, I think the Barletta, which you have detailed, I'm a sucker for good design because ultimately I think it just leads to a happy product. Like with my Lexus right now, I mean, literally, I'm at 142,000 and I changed the oil in it, because it was really well designed and well made. And I do an excellent job of keeping it up. So that's my style. And what also fits into that, because my wife is a color, a theme maniac is what came to mind. Okay?
She doesn't have to listen to this. It's okay.
That's right. I won't tell her that this is going to be on that old internet there. Nobody
goes to the internet. You're fine. You're fine, Chip. It's a passing fad.
If she puts in my name, I'm sure this will never come up. Love you, Mary. But she, of course, would laugh at that, but agree. Okay, of every single house, every single picture we look at, she's got, those colors don't mix, those colors don't mix, those colors don't mix. And she's really good at it. She's been kind of taken a course by somebody that has got it down, really understands color. I mean, like a PhD level of understanding how color works and you apply color, and so I know that ultimately, if we were to buy a Barletta class thing, that she would want to buy new because she's got to get the right colors.
Yep.
So that's an important thing in it. And ultimately, we're not into show. It's just us in a sense. We're not trying to impress anybody with our boat.
But yeah,
at the same
design
time,
and quality are what's leading you, not prestige.
That's right. So we're not prestige buyers.
Okay.
But we're quality buyers. I want to last 20 years. I don't care about the LED lights that my grandchildren will play with and mess them up, so I don't even know how to work them. Okay. I had zero interest in that. If it came with a boat, I'm sure that'd be fine. But I'm not seeking that out. At the same time, I'm ship side of the equation is going to be most pleased to know that is really rigid. It's really well done. It handles the 300. It handles the 250 well, that I don't have to, worry about that. And I'm viewing this as a 20-year boat,
A few of the brands that I would encourage you to check out. Barletta is, in my mind, if you've watched my Barletta video, I think it is the most stout, well built from the deck down boat on the market. I'm now with Winnebago buying them recently. I hope that continues. It's always a question mark when there's somebody's acquired, but from the time that they came out, I've met the president, I've met several people in the company, just a well built boat. As far as looks, I'm wearing a 10-year-old t-shirt right now. So Mary's got me on the design, but so she can make her opinion there. But then you've got Bennington, you've got Harris, you've got those top echelon, I would say Crest and Premier. Those are the ones that I would be looking at for performance. I would also look at Manitou, and that's where I would focus. And if you can, hopefully this season, because you're early in the process, hopefully you can go to a boat show. Down in, the Tampa show is a good show. I don't know if Fort Myers has their own show or not, but I guarantee if they're having shows, there's going to be some good shows down in your area. And just take your time, ask the questions that are in the toolkit. With your engineer mindset, you're going to, if you're like other engineers I've met, you're probably going to have 10 questions on a clipboard and just ask them to every single salesperson. And then also look for, because this is really important as a first-time boater in a coastal area, make sure that you click with the dealer. So not just the salesperson, but as you get closer and closer to finding that brand that's right for you, I like to go in and talk to the service manager or the service writer, talk to the general manager of the store or the owner, depending on the size. That's going to give you a real good sense of, okay, after I write this check, what happens next? Because if the boat's great and the dealer's terrible, bad experience. If the boat's terrible and the dealer's great, bad experience. You need both to be solid. And so you've got to, I'd never say, well, get the Barletta because it's the best. Get the Barletta if you click with the Barletta dealer. Get the Bennington if you click with the Bennington dealer. I think it's so important to get both of those right for a really great experience. In the saltwater environment, it's a harsh environment. As you could imagine, designing vehicles, you guys probably thought about some of this stuff from the salt in the Midwest. You want to stick at that higher end. And if you do go used with the pre-owned, which you mentioned, hey, we like value as well. We want well built, we want quality, but we do like value, and we're not prestige buyers. Make sure if you do that, you go through that boat with the fine-tooth comb, because that saltwater environment, it can cause little things. And if you don't spray it down with fresh water after every use, if you don't desalt your engine on a regular basis, follow the maintenance schedules, even a year or 2-year-old boat could be a disaster waiting to happen. If you just like, oh, it looks great, I'm saving 20 grand versus new. Let's do it. So
Right.
slow it down if you do go on that used path.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good point, as you say, that even a year, and I have studied up, a little bit and realized that, okay, if I'm going to do this, I've got to commit to washing it down and flushing it out.
Yep.
It's just, my boat is not done for the day until that's happened.
Yes.
That it has to be a rigid discipline. And as you say, if somebody could have a new boat and they could have only taken it out 6 times, but if they left the salt water in it, then it doesn't care if they used it 100 times.
Yeah,
the salt water is going to do what the salt water is going to do.
Yep. Yeah, that it's really important for everybody, but in saltwater, there's just so many more things that can go wrong with lack of maintenance, even lack of use. Like you said, you get that salt up in there and you let it sit for 6 months. Oh man, that's almost as bad as running it, wide open throttle for 2 hours or 3 hours.
Right.
So those are some thoughts that come to mind. Another thought that comes to mind as well, and it kind of is going to go against your view, is I think I like the idea of 22 to 25 and maybe that 23 plus with your long cruises. I kind of talked about it in the Sea-Doo Switch video, the length and the going over the waves.
Sure, I understand
the more length you have, the smoother that ride is going to be, because you're going to have much more of your hull crossing over to that third and even fourth and fifth wave, depending on how the crest is working and how it's rolling.
Right.
Which means that you're going to be able to keep your speed up a little bit more on some of those long adventures that you're going to take.
Right.
If you do find yourself going offshore a little bit for an adventure and some weather comes up, you got to be really watching the weather in a pontoon on the open ocean.
Right.
It's, just be very, very diligent about that. But having that extra length gives you a little bit more grace of not getting in a situation where you're going to stuff your bow. You can keep it nice and high at that attitude and get over the waves, even as they get a little bit bigger. So I don't know that you need to go 25, but 23 starts. I'm like, okay, now you're going to be able to get through most things. And this is where talking to the local dealers at a boat show, talking to your neighbors that have pontoons, going to the marinas and talking to somebody there, and just ask them, hey, I'm thinking about a pontoon in this environment. What have you experienced with your 20-foot whatever? What have you experienced with your 25? Because a local flavor is going to be value that I can't give you. I can't give you exactly what it's going to be like down in Bonita Springs, Fort Myers, and that you can get walking the docks, going to a restaurant on the water, which you probably go there all the time when you're, just chat up some folks and get, a big enough cross section that you don't just get some crazy guy that's like, go out on my 18-footer 20 miles offshore.
Sure.
Talk to several people and you'll get a sense of what makes sense on that length.
Right.
I'm thinking that larger size.
Right. So
it's going to
you
make you
think
happier.
The 23 over the 21 even is
it doesn't seem like much, but as you get in rougher chop, you can keep that nose up higher, and just the balance, the buoyancy, all of that increases. And I just get the sense, I know most of your water's protected, because I've got the map pulled up here. And you've got a nice protected runs all the way up to Port Charlotte. Not quite as far down towards Bonita Beach, but I just that size, like, man, don't go too short. Just be cautious of that.
Right. Well, that's good. That's really good input, Matt. I appreciate that, because that's again something that I'm not able to figure that out at my desk. I can study up a lot of things like the engine size with your information and others. I what you said is concurred. My thoughts. I'm kind of in the 250, 300 place myself, saying I've never, even with a hand tool, I've never liked having the less power.
Yeah.
I mean, it somehow always translates into, when you're out there, that it's better. And again, I'm not the sort that would get the dual 300 horsepowers. I wouldn't know really what to do with it.
Yeah.
But having something that allows us to keep moving at a good pace is important. So can I ask you?
Yeah. Fire away. There's one other thought that I want to share, and that is, I would go on, because you're early enough in the process, I would go on a place like Boat Setter, or getmyboat.com. Shay, the VP of marketing, was on my US Boat Expo. They're a peer-to-peer boat rental, which gives you the opportunity to rent a boat that is pretty close to what you're looking at buying.
Right.
You may be able to rent it for $400, $500, $600, but now you can get out on a TriToon with a 200, a 20-footer or a 23-footer or a 25-footer, and you're like, all right, Mary, what do we think? How does this feel, before you write that bigger check? And now you can test out some things. So I really like that when you're early in the process as a
Oh, that's great. I didn't really realize that was available.
Yeah.
That would definitely be something that we would do. Because again, Mary, close your ears if you're listening. She is the type of person that when we're talking about the budget, she's going, oh, we don't need something like that, but then we're out and I'm driving along. She's going, why are you going so slow?
Yes.
And it's because you made me get the 190 horsepower. I wanted the 300.
So that's what you do. You rent the 20-footer with the 75 on it the first time out. And be like, hey,
see. Yeah, that's I like you. I like you, Matt. There, that's the way to do it. I'll start out and say, well, man, I think this is as big as we should go. Well, maybe let's go to 75 or 90.
So all right, so that's all the thoughts that came. So go ahead, fire away with any other questions that you have.
Okay, so again, I'm figuring all this out from my desk, and I'll get out there in the field. And I love the idea of renting something that's close to what we're looking at. The cruise speed, because of the situation I've described, I think is particularly important. Again, Mary on the highway has a hot foot. She likes to go fast in that way. She's just not gonna want to pay for the engine that helps her do that. But ultimately, we got one choice, and I want to make sure that we do it right. So I need to understand what affects your cruise speed. So as I think I detailed in the my cover letter to you, I consider noise, obviously the engine side, the sea conditions, the roughness of the ride are all factors that go into it. But again, I'm envisioning that maybe even, or also wind. And so I don't know, for instance, let's take wind to start with. At what point, because you can get your twin 300s on there, but if you're just going so fast that it's uncomfortable because you have so much wind in your face, at what speed does the wind just go? It's okay to do it for 3 minutes, but I really don't want to go for 30 minutes at this speed because of wind.
Sure. So what I look, and especially on a pontoon, one thing that you don't have is a windshield in most cases.
Right.
So you've got that breeze in your face. And I think as you start hitting 35, 40 miles an hour, that's some wind in your face. It's not whistling really.
Right.
But it's, I've got my sunglasses on usually when I'm going anything that speed or over.
Right.
So, that's when it's, to me, you can tell you're going fast. At 25, 30, that's comfortable. That's a really comfortable speed to cruise on a boat, I think.
Okay.
That's where I like to go. It's a nice, comfortable speed. You're up on plane. And but as you get to that 35, 40, now
Right.
you're going fast on a boat.
Right. Right. And again, we'll do that in certain situations. And if you're pulling, well, I guess even actually when you're pulling the kids, you don't want to be going that fast. But we will go that fast at times. But what I'm hearing you say is the 30 would be nominally a top speed for comfort from the wind. How about for conversation? At what speed is the wind and noise such that you're having to kind of shout to each other in conversation, basically?
Yep. So if you get a 4-stroke that's not the supercharged, like
I don't want to supercharge
the Mercury X Pro XS,
right,
and the Yamaha Show, those are going to be their high performance engines. They have a little bit louder sound to them. The regular 4-strokes, they don't have the same level of power,
right?
But they're just quiet. They're like, you running 30 miles an hour, the wind in the water is going to be louder than a Mercury, Yamaha, Suzuki, any of them, on the 4-stroke. So I wouldn't be concerned. Now I've run a 115 Pro XS a decent amount this summer, and I was like, man, that's loud, because I've been used to running the 4-strokes, the regular 4-strokes, Mercury and Yamahas. So that I wouldn't be concerned with as far as the noise level if you go with just the Mercury 4-stroke or the Yamaha 4-stroke on that. So
and so at 30 miles an hour. With the regular 4-stroke, would you expect you can have a pretty decent conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. It's especially if this is a thought on layout. If it's going to be you and Mary quite often, the double captain's chairs,
absolutely.
That's going to allow that conversation at 30 miles an hour. Yeah. If you have that configuration, talking back and forth is going to be easy. At 30 miles an hour when you're running.
Yeah. Okay. And there's another one, Mary, close your ears on this one. Is the only thing that she would like better is to have her captain's seat right behind mine so she could reach over and do things. But again, that's just between me and you.
They used to make a double helm seat on Pontoon so you could sit right next to each other, but they're like, let's go with the 2 foot separation.
Yeah, that's a good thing, because she just yes, she loves me.
Yes, just in case she hears
I won't
it.
say anymore. I'm already, if she picks up on this, I'm already in trouble. But you can see it's probably not the first time I've gotten myself in trouble.
Yes. If it's like my wife, she's just used to it by now, and it just bounces off.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it all it all works there. Would you talk to me about the difference between the 300 because that's my bias is the 300 for cruise versus a 250 for cruise? Is there going to be any difference?
Not much. You're going to be running a slightly lower RPM.
Right.
But you may have a little bit better fuel economy with the 300, because you don't have to run it at the same RPM.
Right.
When you get to that point, my personal opinion is there's going to be a couple miles an hour on the top end. But in the reality, practical running, you're not going to notice a difference if you go with the 250 or you go with the 300. It's for most people, you're going to be, if you look at the RPM bands on boats, it's like 1% of the time is run in the top RPM range at wide open throttle.
Right.
And like 80% is run at the lowest RPM band, because you're going through no wake zones. But that, let's call it 4,000 RPMs to 2,500 RPMs is where you're going to run most of the time. And I don't see a significant difference on a 23, 25 foot TriToon between a 250 and a 300. I don't see it impacting you at all in any significant way.
Right. Okay. Well, that's a good answer. Of course, I want you to feed me some reason why the 300 would be would be it, but
you get to say you've got a 300 versus a 250, but that prestige thing isn't your motivator. It's the
right.
But that's the value. It's the same value as putting twins on. Is now you get to roll up to the restaurant and you got twin 450 racing engines on your boat.
Right.
You're like, oh my God, that's on a pontoon. That's the value of it. I don't think there's much performance value.
Right. Well, that's very helpful, and that ratchets me down toward reality, which is ultimately, again, why I wanted to have the conversation with you, and why I'm so appreciative of your platform and what you do, because it helps me take my philosophy of a bigger engine is always better, and it will help me meet my budget and hit my performance goals, which is ultimately what I'm about. The number that's on the back. If I want a different number on the back, I'll find a sticker and I'll put it on
decals are $25. You're
that's right. I can probably find one that says 450 if I want. Or I'll make one that says 450.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to tease the people that say, wait a minute, they don't even make a 450. I go, well, they do decals.
Yeah, absolutely. You can make anything in Photoshop.
That's right. So that's really helpful perspective there. That's good. I'm looking at our time. How do you run the time at this point?
I don't.
Okay.
I do have to stop at 6 to take my daughter to volleyball practice. So you've got fire away with questions.
Okay. So because you just did that premiere, or you showed the Sea-Doo, what do they call it? The switch.
Switch. Yep.
Okay. And of course that is really is a totally non-standard, even along with the stuff that we've been talking about here. But I don't come, because I'm a first-time boat buyer. I don't have this sense of, oh well, that's not a real pontoon. It's like, it is a real pontoon. It's just different. It's plastic. I like aluminum. Say, well, I like the fact that they engineered the holes, and that it's more carefully, you can tell the center one is this way and the outside ones are this way, and they've been able to I'm also looking at kayaks, so I've been studying hulls, and so I recognize some of the hull design that they've done with that they were able to do with plastic that they could never do with the typical pontoon style.
Yep.
So I like that. And you correctly pointed out to me in one of my comments that I would be much happier with the 21 footer than the 18 footer. And I buy that. I say, okay, that's wise advice. That's good. I get it. But it also strikes me as it seems like those jet drives are pretty zippy.
For sure.
And I don't know if you've gotten to study in on the Sea-Doo skis, but the way they have reverse and everything works, you're really able to have brakes on it. And again, I've done enough boat driving to know that I'm not very good. Okay. And I recognize that you've got a course that will help me be really good with practice.
Yep.
Okay. At the same time, I realized I was driving today and realized, gosh, the next month I turn 66, and I'll have 50 years of driving without an accident.
Oh, wow. That's impressive.
So I like to drive. I like to be in control.
Yeah.
Okay. And first off I like to keep distance, and I do all this, because I'm a careful driver. And so forth and so on. And so I love the idea of being able to stop, reverse, pivot, and do all these things, because I know I've done enough of the stuff around the dock to realize it's not hard to drive out there.
Yes.
It is when you're around the dock, it gets hairy pretty fast, especially you add a little wind and current, or you get a helper that's saying, do this, do that, or, oh no. Again, not that I would have a helper that would ever do that.
Oh yeah. Mary, but we're not talking about you.
No,
you're fine.
I'm talking about some stranger on
other
the
people on the docks. Yes, absolutely.
Right. So I love the idea of the control that is there with a full brake, full pivot, and that sort of thing. Even if I'm taking your great boat course, which I plan to do, and I definitely will do, and I'll practice it. But I just love that aspect of control that is there. And so I combine the control with the zippiness of it. I realize, again, you mentioned the word compromise. Right now, the 21 foot's as big as I have. Maybe they'll come out with the longer, who knows? But whatever the case, I'm drawn to that for those reasons.
Sure.
So what is your take on that 21 foot with the 170 horsepower? I wouldn't get the 230 because it's turbo or supercharged. And I don't want to mess with that. It gets too expensive. Again,
when something goes wrong, it's not an easy fix. Yeah.
Right. In maintenance and everything, it's just, it's making things more complicated. And I worked with turbos at Chrysler back in 1970 something. So, I'm familiar with them, which means I don't want one.
It's amazing how that works sometimes.
Yeah.
You're like, I know it too well.
I have it on my Mercedes RB because it's a really well done turbo system, but it also means that I'm having to do certain things with it, and it's higher maintenance and that sort of thing. And I don't want it on a boat that after 200 hours or 400 hours, I've got to do a complete rebuild or something. So I would look at the 170 21 foot on that switch. You've heard my application. What do you think would be the problem with that boat for my application?
So the biggest one that comes to mind is the length, where I said, hey, 23 to 25 feels right for the way that's the first thing that jumps out. And obviously we talked about why I said that. The sporty zippiness, I used to sell Yamaha jet boats, and they are fun to drive. They take off like a rocket ship. They handle really, really sporty. And I used to tell people, because I had Sea Ray, I had Harris pontoons, and I had Yamaha jet boats, all well-built boats. You could go with Sea Ray, which is going to be your Cadillac Mercedes, your luxury, comfortable ride. You could go with the Pontoon, which has got the space and the living room on the water. But if you're a sports car, if you've got a Corvette or a Jag or a whatever, and you want that, then the jet boat's for you. So that's, I think part of that fits you and Mary, that sportiness, that quick acceleration. Where I think it falls short is those long cruises and the comfort, not getting punished is the word that you used, not getting punished on those long runs to a restaurant or exploring in rough or chop. I think that would be a big downfall. The other thing for me is I think it's because I'm a boater. I can't get over the throttle control that you have on your hand grip. And here's my father-in-law has jet skis, and it's got the cruise control. He's got the Yamahas. He doesn't have the Sea-Doo, but you still have to hold that control down to engage and to keep the cruise going, which means that if you're cruise, and I don't know if Sea-Doo is the same way. That I don't know.
I did look at that Q&A session that Sea-Doo had.
Okay.
And they said it's a different system
Okay.
that you basically set it and forget it.
Okay. So you don't have to hold that down.
Right.
That's
You
good.
don't. Right.
Okay.
Right.
Then that's definitely a good thing, because I'm like,
Right.
man, that's going to be
You're
so
right.
uncomfortable.
That would be a game. That'd be a killer for
but
that.
I need to run one of those to
Right.
make, because and people pointed out in the comments, it seems like you're biased. It seems like you're hating it before you even know. And they certainly are right. I saw it and I was like, handlebars on a boat? That's not right. But it makes sense to do it with all their controls and the reverse or the braking system they have, which is partly yes, partly it's marketing, because the brake is reverse.
Right.
Now again, I'm running Yamaha jet skis, so I was out at the marina the other day and they had some Sea-Doos, but it didn't have. They were 2 years old or 3 years old, and the guy's like, "No, these don't have that brake." I was gonna rent them just so I could go run it and be like, "Brake, okay, now I see." But they're just throwing it again in reverse, and I don't know when it stops. Like, I don't know how it's recognizing that now we're stopped.
Right.
What type of sensor they're using there. So I need to experience that firsthand. Little plug for my system. In the building blocks, number 5, I think it is, I talk about how to stop your momentum using the throttle to reverse, and that's your brake. It's a learning curve with the regular steering wheel and throttle.
Right.
It may be simpler. It may be simpler on this Switch and on the Sea-Doo system. I just haven't experienced it yet, and I need to. I need to before I make another video and give an updated review.
Sure. And again, I appreciate you going out on a limb and doing that. And we all have our biases, and it's great for you to come with it. I mean, you're an experienced boater, and so you're reacting to those things. What I see that is special about it is that I'm using fine motor skills versus my arm on the throttle.
Yep.
So it's not my bicep that's doing it, but it's my fingers that are doing it. And so that's what I see as it relates to the handlebars. That is actually the left hand that is the magic to that, because I've got really good control of that. Then the other thing I would say on the handlebars is you're having, again, as I think you point out, a quicker response to things, which again can be good or bad. It may be when you're cruising that it's so sensitive. I don't know if they have the ability to make it less sensitive.
I would have to think they do, knowing, running 30 miles an hour on a jet ski when you turn, how quickly that turns. And on the pontoon, I mean, it seems like they would have to have some sort of adjustment for speed.
So I don't know if it's electronic. If it's electronic, it'd be easy for them to do it. If it's mechanical, I guess they can do it, but it'd be more challenging.
Yeah.
But this is where yourself and others getting out there and really trying it. And of course, ultimately, I'd be wanting to do that too when they come out. I did see I'm looking at the time here. I did see a video for the first time yesterday of something, and I think they said is out in the ocean or something, but they had it going in circles and going over its wake. And this is where your perspective would be interesting, because it really sliced through the wake really nice. But again, I know how marketing people and that sort of thing, you may go, oh, well, wait a minute. The way they did it was they set themselves up so it looked wonderful.
It's the rollers in the ocean that coming in. If you do get out in the open water, that is the spacing of them, and it changes. So I need to run one and get out there and see that. But and unfortunately, I stopped by the Sea-Doo dealer to see when they would get one. And he's like, we've pre-sold the 2 that we have allotted for us now. He's like, I don't see us getting one in that's going to be available to really even inspect till next year. So we'll see. I don't know if they're going to do any events or not.
Well, and that's where, again, my timeline is useful, because I'm looking many months down the road, and I don't want to buy a first-year model anyway. So I've got time for that to process out. Well, listen, I know you got to go take your daughter off to volleyball practice. You say?
Got to get to her first year playing volleyball. She's super excited. This is her second practice. So,
well, that's great. Well, listen, you've been so gracious with your good advice and help. Thank you so much. And we'll see how much trouble I get with Mary. I may be looking for another home sometime, so I'll ring you.
We'll talk about a liveaboard next time.
There you go.
All right, thanks, Chip. We'll talk to you soon.
Very good. Take care, man. Bye-bye.